Baltimore the package. Baltimore the package. Baltimore the package. Me my brothers playing it. Raw slick as pockets. That me on the plane. Life it gets so heavy. You just do you stand with. Can't be overstanding. Understand just how the man is. Baltimore the package. Baltimore podcast episode number 17. We are here. Baltimore podcast. Welcome. Thank you guys, for being here, showing up. My name is Kyle Coleman, a.k.a. Middle Class Kyle, a.k.a. Dope Taste Wolfgang Bushido. Sitting here with my full blood cousin. No muggle blood. Okay? Wizard blood only.
Only wizard.
Tim Moore himself.
Hey, what's good, Kyle? Thanks for having me on.
I'm waiting for the applause to die down. The applause are just getting out of golly. Okay, all right. Thank you, people. Thank you. All right, yeah, man. How you doing, Tim? How you doing, cousin?
Kyle, I'm doing better than I deserve, I think.
Bro, you're looking fresh, man. You got the all white on. I'm liking it, bro. You got the shades rocking, man. Where did you get that jacket from, bro? That's a fresh ass jacket.
Yeah, so it's a Japanese import, actually. I got into fashion, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago. Had a few buddies I knew from New York, and they gave me some suggestions, and this was one of the brands. I really like this jacket, actually. Whenever I go out on my bike, you usually bring out this jacket because it's bright colors, good, so no one hits you. Those Georgia roads get kind of dangerous, and yeah. Besides that, I'm really liking it. So it's nice. It's nice.
Those Georgia roads.
Yeah, I think Georgia is like the 40th, 40 out of 50 on drivers. So out of the 50 states, they're in the top 10 worst drivers, at least right now. We're working on it, but it is what it is.
How long have you been there?
Been in Georgia for about a year. I was in Texas for about 2 years before that, and then I was actually in Georgia again about 4 or 5 years ago when I first joined the military. I was in Georgia, kind of got familiar with a bit of the area, and then left immediately after. So, but yeah, Georgia's a good state.
So you're familiar. Is it second home, you would say?
Yeah, definitely my second home. So obviously, grew up in New York, and New York was great. You get all 4 seasons. Definitely winter. You definitely don't get that in Georgia and Texas. It does get cold down in the south, but it's not like the north. It's pretty brutal up in the north, as I'm sure you know. Here in Maryland, it gets plenty cold too. I know.
Oh, so, yeah. We got that Viking blood in us, bro. Like I'm saying, bro, that just makes us stronger, mentally adaptable people.
True.
The cold weather, we know what to do with it. We ain't afraid of that cold weather, man. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you grew up in a 2-parent household, and you also had a brother, right?
Yeah, I was very blessed to grow up in a 2-parent household with a brother. It was how do we grow up?
Shout out to the 2-parent household. Bro.
Yeah,
let's go. Come on, y'all. Look, we making waves.
Yeah,
y'all stuck together. We making it work for that time that y'all did stick together. Okay, We appreciate that time.
100%. I know. What is it? The nice Dave Chappelle skit goes, it's like, we made, my parents did just well enough to be the poor black family in a nice white neighborhood, which kind of holds true. I feel Dave Chappelle on a that bit. So mom and dad did just well enough. You could get into a good neighborhood for me and VJ. Shout out to VJ out here. I think 2-3 episodes ago. Got some stuff to clear up on that end. Got to talk about maybe a little bit of Rock Lee and Gar and maybe some Dragon Ball Super a little later on. But yeah, that'll be my ode to him on that end.
Hey man, shout out Vic Viper. You want to check that out? I believe that's episode 14. 14. But yeah, bro, you grew up with a brother like. An older brother. How much older is VJ?
VJ is 11 months older than me. So we are Irish twins, I think is what they call it. So we were the same age for 1 month of the year. He was always in a grade ahead of me, but it is what it is. We were basically like the same height pretty much up until like we fully grew. I think I'm like an inch, maybe 2 inches taller than him. But besides that, we were yeah pretty much Irish twins or getting very close in age. Yeah.
So like, I don't know, like, what was it like having an older brother? Like, cause I just think of like my friends, my friends that were older than me, they were all cool. I always thought people that had brothers, they were so lucky to have a brother. Like, what was that like? Cause technically you're having somebody that you have to share everything with, so.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. It was a lot of sibling rivalry when we grew up. Let's see. It would be a lot of play fighting. I guess is what you call it. Kids fight. But hopefully not to break each other's bones. I didn't break any of his bones. He didn't break any of mine. But yeah, definitely a friendly rivalry. And it's kind of simmered down, I think, since I moved into the army. I joined. So that rivalry ended, and now it's nothing but love and good good feelings between us. So
I'm saying,
yeah.
but okay, all right. Like, I know you are in the army, just throwing that out there. But it's like, all right, when you were coming up, all right, let's go through, middle school, high school. Like, let's
Okay.
speed up just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Like, what is mom like? What is dad like at this time? Like, is anybody even encouraging you to get into the military or even think about the military?
Oh, it's funny that you mention it. Quickly, I actually didn't even think about joining the military till about 6 months before I joined. So that was after I had my degree and like everything. I wasn't really even thinking about the military. But yeah, back in middle school, it's like mom was a payroll clerk, dad was writer slash playwright slash videographer slash music producer slash musician. He was doing a million things. VJ and I, again, were both in school. We both had our cliques in school. I had no military on my mind at all. Some of the class I graduated with in class of 2013, shout out for all you 1995, 1994 babies out there. Some of them were thinking about joining the military and kind of spoke about it, but it was never in my head till way later.
You said they was bluffing. They was bluffing on joining. You was about it though. You was about it.
Most of them are out now. Actually, they actually got out before I even joined. A lot of people that came into the military from my school. Yeah,
just wasn't for him.
Yeah.
All right. So like when you were around this middle school, high school, what did you want to be?
Oh, I wanted to be an accountant. So
wow.
Yeah. So that's the thing about me is I've always been kind of thinking like even from like a young age I've been thinking about like what our community needs, and I think what's really good. I think I don't want to say black people, but I think people of coming from humble beginnings in general, like we need more. We need to aspire to be more like bankers, lawyers, STEM field people, and then I'd put like accounting, econometrics, finance all into like that banking kind of field, and that's what I wanted to do so I could help out my folks. As they got older, I was like, well, what makes money quick? I'm like, oh, don't those like slimy bankers at like the investment firms make a lot of money? Yeah, let's do that. So
really, that's how you came up with that. You were like,
that's what I thought. Yep. And then I went and did accounting. Got my got my associate degree in accounting because I went to a community college first, and then hated it completely. Switched over to finance, going into a 4-year school. And the worst part is I had an accounting internship right after I switched, and I loved it.
Hold up. So
yeah.
What community college did you go to?
I went to community college in New York, Dutchess Community College, DCC for short. And there's a whole story about that where, some people learn about college. A lot of people, at least in my neighborhood, have a lot of family members that are like college graduates and stuff like that. But, dad had some college. Mom never went to college, so I didn't really know how to navigate that space. So I think one time, like one day in my junior year, everyone left for the day, like halfway through, to go take what I didn't know at the time was an SAT, and I never took that. I was just curious as to why like class ended, and then fast forward a year, almost end of senior year, applying for colleges is like, yeah, you need an SAT or an ACT score. No idea what any of that was. So fortunately, community colleges don't require those. So you know, I went to a community college after that, but
See, like
yeah.
that's the choice that I guess a lot of people just I don't know, they're not as excited to make. But community college is a great stepping stool,
Oh yeah,
for whatever you need.
agreed.
I'm saying you could speak more to it, definitely a lot more to me. Like I did go to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I did
Hell
not
yeah.
want to go to a community college. My mom definitely was pushing me in that direction, and long term it could have actually worked out for the better. Who knows? But I appreciated my experiences on that university campus. Did you live on campus?
Yeah, I lived on campus. I was an RA, so you know, yeah, I had to
Okay. I ain't gonna
break
lie.
down some
As
doors.
as long as you live on campus, I feel like you get the full college experience. You
I
know what
think
I'm
so.
saying?
Yeah, I think so. So our yeah.
Uh, That's the one hang up because it's like, all right, community college, but can you live on campus? If you can
Yep.
live on campus, you should be good.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we definitely got the college experience there. There were a lot of what is it? We were a dry campus, so it was very interesting, especially from a student perspective and from a RA kind of perspective on that end. It was
What does that mean, a dry campus?
oh, it means they don't allow alcohol. So yeah, dry campus, no alcohol allowed, even if you were over 21.
Hold up, like, yeah, obviously people would still drink though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't think. Hold up, is any college like you're not supposed to have alcohol in any college? Well, I guess if you're over 21, you can, but
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. Well, all right. So, how were your grades at this time? Like, and I,
Well, I wasn't a great student. I'll be honest with you. Starting in, what were my grades? I don't remember off the top of my head. Probably didn't start with a 9. Probably didn't start with an 8 either. But after graduating from high school, yeah, I wasn't great. I kind of grew into who I am now. I think mostly through community college and going into my 4 year. I know I was Dean's List every year over at DCC, Dutchess Community College, which let me get into my next college, Baruch College. But I was not a great student in high school. No. Yeah.
what was the second college?
The second college, it was Baruch College. It's on Lexington and 25th. It's like everyone that can't afford to go to Columbia goes there. So
Okay.
yeah. So like, you got NYU, you got Columbia, you got like the big schools. Like NYU has like the Stern School of Business and all that stuff, very prestigious school. I could not afford that, as a few people couldn't. I went to Baruch instead, and I think it was good. I got what I needed out of it. Either way, whether I went into debt going to NYU or Columbia, or whether I didn't go into debt going into Baruch, I still wound up in the Army. So, still making the same paycheck. Anyone that graduates 100K in debt or zero debt in the Army, you still get paid the same. So,
So you went to 3 schools in total?
I went to 2. I went to Dutchess
okay.
Community, and I went to Baruch College. And I dreamed about going to NYU, but yeah, dreams are just that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. Look,
Yeah.
all right. So altogether, how many years of school did you do? Did you complete?
Oof. Well, starting from K, I guess that's what, 16 years?
Well, nah. Like, all right.
Oh,
my
starting
bad,
from here to college. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
like college, my bad.
So funny that you mentioned that. Well, as you know, the normal 4-year degree is that it's 4 years, but most students actually spend like 5 years doing their degree. I think I spent 5.5 because Dutchess Community College kind of gave me some bad advice on an associate's degree, and I had to switch tracks halfway through, so it kept me there an extra semester. And then I had to play a little bit of catch up in Baruch College because I forgot some of the maths and had to take a remedial math course. Not any finance major can just go in not knowing a lot of math and make it from there. So yeah, definitely had to make that up. So yeah, there was that. But I think in total 5.5 years. Yeah.
Did you go to any parties or high school party or college party?
Well, in high school, let's see, went to one, nothing of note. College, went to a few.
You only went to one in high school?
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah,
our high school, I guess for like anyone that has like a good Pokemon reference, the neighborhood I grew up in, it's a good pallet town, as they say, like a good town of beginnings. Like there's not a lot going on there, which is good and bad. It's good because you can't really do much to get yourself into trouble, and it's bad because you can't really do much to stick you ahead of the pack. So I think overall it's pretty good because most young teens are pretty stupid. So if you don't give them enough rope to hang themselves with, I think that's the best bet. So you can either lasso a horse, or you can hang yourself with the rope. Usually a teenager's gonna unfortunately get themselves into more trouble the more opportunities you give them to do well or do bad. So I think that was a good thing.
So, like, how many parties do you think you went to in high school? I mean, in college.
College, half dozen. I didn't go to that many. Maybe I went to like one a month for my first semester, and then after that I became an RA. So like I would have lost my job, and the RA, you get free room and board, but if you make any mistakes they kind of axe you. So you got to be you're walking a tightrope. So you've got to be that person that kind of lays down the rules. And like I don't necessarily have an affinity for like that kind of job, but I think it was good in the sense of it helped me pay through college. So you do what you got to do to pay for your stuff, right? So I know, like, I had another buddy who's in Alaska now. He got axed for some dumb stuff. I don't even think it was stuff that he did. It was just speculation. And his main response was, well, if I'm not an RA, I actually can't afford to live here. So he dropped out because he couldn't afford it, and he actually went on to do bigger and better things. He's living in like a cabin in like Alaska now. He's actually enjoying life. Kind of jealous, actually. I could do for a log cabin, maybe one of these years. Who knows?
You gotta take chances. He took chances.
That's
Shout
right.
out to him.
That's right.
Yeah. Did you get in any fights at this time? Like any like physical altercation?
Ooh, I didn't get into any fights I couldn't talk myself out of. I'm trying to think. In high school, I did get into a fight, but yeah, you should have seen the other guy. That guy wasn't great. I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to get too deep into it, but fights aren't always fair. Sometimes it's 2 against 1, sometimes it's 3 against 1, and sometimes it's 6 against 1. So
Bro.
without any details, yeah. You got, only got into one scuffle, but nothing I couldn't talk myself out of when I was in college. I think like the main goal is to not get into a fight if you can avoid it, especially if like the other guys got weight on you. If the other guys got 30 plus pounds on you, you probably don't want to fight them. So
It's to survive.
yeah,
Man.
yeah.
We trying to survive out here. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
You don't survive by just fighting random people. Okay.
That's true.
But when you don't have to.
That's true.
All right. So, what is? Okay. All right. So, actually, before I get into that question,
Yeah.
we're kind of coming out of high school, college. So, you remember when you turned 21?
Yeah, I remember the day I turned 21.
Like, and you were still in college, right?
Yep.
Like, what was your mindset at this time? Was it still on accounting or?
I was shifting into finance.
Finance, okay.
Yep, and I went to go hang out with some friends, and went to go have my first legal beer, Let's just call it that.
As a 21-year-old?
Yeah. Went to go have my first legal beer, as a 21-year-old.
And hold up, how long ago was this?
Asking me my age on live, huh? I'm 30, so it was 9 years ago.
9 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are over 21?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a shot for that, bro. Let's take a shot of the Mar-a-Lago. Got the Mar-a-Lago out. Shout out to Hey, gotta do the toast.
Yeah.
Shout out to Maurice. Shout out to Droppy Badass.
Yeah, shout outs. Good stuff.
My cousin, your cousin, our cousin.
Shout out Maurice. Shout out.
That's pretty smooth, ain't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty smooth. It's like 1800. That's what it tastes like watered down 1800.
It does. Yeah, the bite's not as strong, but it's very smooth. Agreed. Quality tequila gets my thumbs up.
All right. So, what is your current military occupation?
So currently in the military, currently a captain. So I just went to a few captain schools to get started, and I'm in armor. So that's tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, Humvee. I guess, well, not necessarily like Humvees, but anything like mechanized. So most people know what like a tank look like. So not a lot of people know what like a Bradley fighting vehicle looks like. 'Cause it's looks like a small, tall tank, and a lot of my armor friends are gonna hiss at me for saying that because it's not a tank. But yeah. So I do tanks and stuff. So it's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for 5 years. So wow. Yeah. So I'm a guppy compared to a lot of my buddies that have been in it a lot longer, and to a lot of my buddies that are just getting in now. I'm one of the old school cats. So interesting how that works. But yeah, really like the job. You got interesting scenarios like every day. You never know what like you're gonna find because like some days, especially if you're just in garrison or whatever, things will kind of break loose and kind of jump at you. But most of the time, you'll have an easy day. Most of the time. Only when like you get deployed or you go to like a training rotation, like go to the desert, are you like always on? But typically you got like a 9 to 5, like most regular government jobs. Just your 9 to 5 includes tanks instead of like whatever their like the normal 9 to 5 includes a lot of paperwork.
So like typically you're driving them, or are you fixing them? Or?
So I guess I should have been a little more specific. So as a captain, so you would be like a company commander. So you'd be in charge of a company of tanks. So you'd have about 80 or so soldiers under you, and they would be the drivers, the gunners, the loaders, and also the tank commanders of those individual tanks. And your job basically is to make sure that tank company remains trained, and then all the tanks actually work. That's the most important thing. Is even above training, you have to make sure the tanks actually turn on. Because if the tanks don't work, you can't even train. If you can't train, then you'll probably do a bad job at fighting. If you do a bad job at fighting, then the other guy wins, and that's our job at the end of the day is to win. So
like you're doing a lot of, I guess, directions, like you're giving a lot of orders.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork, and it's a lot of giving direction. So you've got to learn how to read I guess certain Excel spreadsheets that basically give you a snapshot of where your company's at in terms of training and in terms of maintenance. So tanks break down all the time for any number of reasons, and you got to make sure that your mechanics are have all the equipment that they need, and so they can actually fix the tanks. Make sure your soldiers are being taken care of so they can actually operate the tanks, and make sure that the leaders under you, so like your lieutenants and your senior sergeants are have all the resources that they need so they can properly direct those soldiers that are on the ground.
Are you actually getting into the tanks? Like, do that? You're not doing that though.
So yeah, back when I was a lieutenant, I would typically get into the tanks as a commander. You do have your own tank, because you do have your own tank.
They just give you your own tank. Like you're in charge of all these other tanks. But yeah, we'll give you your own. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, you've got your personal tank and your personal crew that like will pilot the tank, but. The thing about it is like if the commander's tank is shooting at things, you've probably already messed up. It's kind of like for like any tanker, if like any tanker is jumping out of the tank and shooting something with like their M4, something's probably gone horribly wrong at that point. So like if like the commander is actually fighting, bad things have happened at that point. So yeah, I do get into tanks. I will have my own tank, but yeah, if I'm using it in a life or death situation, something has already gone horribly wrong, and probably most of my company's probably already dead or worse at that point if I'm shooting.
All right, so yeah, let's hope you never have to
Oh yeah, fingers crossed. Again. Of course, well we're on friendly terms with Russia now, so I don't have to worry about that, I guess.
So like, could you say this is something that you love doing?
Yeah, I'd say funny that you mention it. I like the job, but let's just say if I won the lottery tomorrow, there'd be signs. That's all. The job's great, but if I won like $1 million, I probably wouldn't show up to work. After that, who knows? Let's go with 10 million. Actually, 1 million's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look, that's the majority of people. But
Yeah.
anyway, like, are you afraid to go to war?
I was definitely at the beginning of my career. Trying to think about it, how I felt back then. I was very unsure because I didn't want to be combat arms when I first joined the army. So I wanted to be a military policeman, which is like combat support. I changed my mind about halfway through the initial training process because I saw how much that like the combat arms people actually do and stuff like that. This is no knock to people that are combat support or like support like
Yeah, like, what are
yeah
they doing?
jobs.
Like, are
Yeah,
they're in the field?
yeah. So like, common arms will be in the field. Like anything else, like logistics stuff, they'll also be in the field too. And like they have their role as well. Like sometimes it's not always the man behind the gun. Sometimes it's the man behind the man behind the man behind the man behind the gun. And that end. So like definitely huge respect for the logistics branch and for other branches that aren't exactly combat in there. But after getting a lot of like platoon mentors or getting a lot of mentors that were combat arms, I was like, oh yeah, I got to do that. But I didn't want to walk everywhere, so I decided to go with armor and not infantry because yeah, walking's great. It's just why carry your weapon into battle when your weapon can carry you, right?
Yeah. Like, honestly, that sounds like just a smarter move on your end.
Thank you.
Yeah, you must have been talking to the right people. You know,
Oh yeah.
they told you the best divisions or branches to get into.
Yeah.
So it is something that you love, bro. It's something that. Oh yeah, have you seen this trailer for this movie called A24?
A24? No, I haven't. What's it about?
Afghanistan, Fallujah.
Oh, Fallujah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about Fallujah raids, the raids they were doing at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Have you done any research on those times or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about Fallujah. One of my old brigade commanders was actually a captain when the whole thing kicked off.
Wow.
And they were working with the Marines trying to go into like the city, right? And because Marines and Army actually fight off of different like OPSEC or like operational security or like different like timelines, they could talk to each other. So my mentor was saying how like he was like yelling orders at his like subordinates at his like lieutenants and like senior NCOs and stuff like that about like why aren't we pushing into the city, especially because they were like taking fire at the time. And like you had people jumping out of tanks, running over to like the Marine tanks, the Marines running over to the Army tanks, trying to be like, what the heck's going on? Because there was a big like communication lapse there. Obviously, we know how it ended. So like America won as usual, but yeah, I know a little bit about it, and I know a little bit from what my mentor told me about what happened on the ground there and some of the complications that went with taking the territory. But please, yeah, sorry, the movie talks about that a lot. In
Yeah,
detail.
well, it's more so a first-hand account of those like raids and what the soldiers actually went through.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Dang. Is it when does it come out?
I believe a month or two.
Oh,
I'm not
heck
sure.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, check
Solid.
that out. A24, go check that out, guys.
A24.
That looks good. Yeah, man, that's just wild. Like, I don't know. I just think if we did go to war, what do you think, or who do you think we would go to war with
Oh,
if we did go to war?
It's hard to say. We do have a few adversaries. I don't know. We don't have any direct enemies now, but
First
we
off,
do have a
do
few adversaries.
you think we will go to war?
Within the next like 10 years or something like that?
Yeah, that's a nice estimate.
There's a chance I'd say something kicks off of maybe like 2027, but I don't think so because it would be out of
2027? Do you know something that we don't?
well, in what do you call it? In Emperor Mao's, I don't know if it's in his little red book, but in one of his works, he does speak about returning Taiwan to the fatherland or whatever they call it, to to the homeland in about that year. So if they were to make a move, who knows? But I don't think we would go to war specifically, mainly because of I think like the people in charge right now know it's not beneficial for us really to go to war in like that same sense. Even though like if things did go nuclear, a hydrogen bomb technically doesn't leave as much nuclear fallout, not near as much nuclear fallout as like an atom bomb, like a fission bomb. So like you could still technically use those, but I don't think a war. I think a war is a. I think it's mutually assured destruction at this point.
It's
So,
not profitable. War
yeah.
isn't profitable.
Yeah, you're right. Only the threat of war is profitable. War itself is not profitable. So agreed.
The threat of war is profitable.
Yeah.
Never looked at it like that.
Yeah.
All right, so are you a Democrat or a Republican?
Ooh, that's hard to say because because I do hold I hold a lot of views that are pretty far left, and I hold a few views that are on the right. So, say like I think I fall into like the social libertarian space, which is a little bit which is kind of like a libertarian, which is like center right, but specifically agrees that there are some social safety nets that need to be put in place in order for our society to function, which a lot of those things put me on like the left side of things. So like I guess for example, I know you and I were kind of talking about guns before, so like
Yeah.
something about that like I feel that's I think like like the libertarian in me is like, well, you're not going to take away the guns, it's not practical. People are definitely going to have them. You can probably make some common sense rules to like put in to like prevent the downside of like that like firearms do like a do cause. So like going through all like the bad things that firearms cause is like obviously like I think the most firearm deaths are like suicides. The reason why I don't really count suicides in there is because you have other countries like Japan that has no guns, for example, but they have double like the suicide rate that like we do. So I don't really put suicides as like a reason that you might want to take someone's guns away. However, I do think you can make things a little more strict, probably by making some better rules for people. For the 5% of gun deaths that are like firearm accidents. So like an X number of people do kill themselves by accident through a firearm, and most of those people are actually minors. So like people that are under the age of 18. And I think some simple common sense training, like a wood shop in high school, for example, could help alleviate that if people learned how to use firearms, at least the common ones, from like an early age. I think it would keep the right happy because you're not taking guns away and you're not starting a national registry. And I think it would keep the left happy as it would bring gun deaths down. So that last bit was kind of facetious. The right probably wants gun deaths to go down. Obviously, everyone wants deaths to go to zero. But yeah, but yeah, that's like one. That's like part of like the libertarian in me is like probably not going to take any guns. But I don't know. Let's see if I just run through. We just running through all the topics.
All right, so you're gonna put gun education in schools.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think there should be education. I don't think you should arm the
Mandatory?
teachers. No.
Or just optional
Well, yeah,
in public schools, optional.
it would have to be optional because like you probably can't force someone to handle a firearm if they don't want to, right? Yeah. Anyone being forced
in
to do
Africa, I heard some stories.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely feel on that. But I don't know. I'm trying to think because I gave you one point that I kind of lean on like the center of the right on. So if I give you a counterpoint.
Yeah,
on
what's the counterpoint to the guns?
Let's see. We can go over something like
DEI.
Yeah, we can go over DEI. So.
All right, DEI. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. And explain what that is.
Okay. So before I explain it, what from like modern. From like the modern like public square, what do you think that DEI means? What have you been told that DEI means?
All right, so now I'm big droppy right now. So okay, what I think is that it's pretty much the system that allows people, or it makes companies choose a specific race of people. It can't pick the best people for its positions. It has to pick the best people by race. It has to have a certain amount of this race, this race, this race. That's what DEI is, and without it, they wouldn't have to pick all the races. They could just pick the best people regardless of race. This is what I think it is. Or,
Okay.
is that right?
Yeah. So then, I'm gonna disagree because but first I'll just break it down.
Like, hold up, what are you disagreeing with?
So to be clear, your definition of DEI is not that we use a hiring system that's not based on merit but more based on demographics of like the population. So like as long as certain demographics are met, you have to hire these people. So basically there's people that aren't qualified for certain jobs basically that are getting those jobs.
Yeah.
Is that what you're understanding?
Not like I'm saying it's not that they're like they could be less qualified than someone of a different race.
So the only pushback that I give on this one is is DEI is not, or diversity, equity, inclusion is not them being forced to hire people of a certain demographic. It's companies being forced to give the opportunity to hire people from a certain demographic. So they'll have to sit them down for interviews, and then they can put them on a probation status if they do hire them to see if they actually meet the qualification of the job. So the reason why this matters a lot is because there's a lot of talk, at least today, that goes in that DEI means basically that like someone that is basically that a black or brown unqualified person got a job that they weren't as right for as like maybe someone else did because of like their color or maybe even their sex, for example. So like maybe like a black or brown person or like a woman got like a job that might have not been as qualified. So that's like the current definition that's fluctuating, and I think it's
like,
really
you're
good.
saying it's not accurate though.
That is not accurate. So anyone, especially people on the left that argue about DEI, yes.
But the accurate point is that they are forced to do the interviews though, not hire.
Yes.
But they're forced to do interviews.
Yes. So like you're forced to sit them for the job, and you're and if they're shown not like giving certain opportunities to certain demographics for like the job, then they'll pay a fee. But in terms of like hiring practices, they can't really enforce that in any way, shape, or form. And if you think that's happening, you should actually report it, because that's actually a direct violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. You're not allowed to hire someone specifically based on those like characteristics. So
But you just said they fine them if they don't give that certain demographic
a chance.
Yeah, an amount of interviews.
Correct.
So that is essentially like, targeting a specific race.
You're right. So then
Does that go against the Civil Rights Act?
So for you hiring them, yes. For you sitting them for like an interview for an opportunity to get the job, no. So then I'll break it down a little bit. The reason why it's very important is because when we frame the argument, we need to think about like why they were created in like the first place. So like if you take like a famous example of this, look at like Jackie Robinson. So like Jackie Robinson, famous baseball player, obviously better than a lot of people, both in like the Negro leagues and when he moved over to Major League Baseball. I don't know if it was called that when he joined, but modern day Major League Baseball. Originally, he wasn't allowed on those leagues, but there were DEI rules at the time forced the companies to at least give him a chance to at least put him on the team temporarily. And it turns out that he knocked it out of the park. He wasn't only as good as people that were in Major League Baseball at the time, he was better than a lot of them. And because he had that opportunity, it turns out that he was able to go ahead and actually prove that if you have all of one demographic on like some form of field, you're probably not choosing things based on merit. So it helps you. So I'm actually pro merit. I want people to choose things based on merit. And I know you might know all the stats. Like if you have a female sounding first name or a black sounding first name, you are still less likely to even sit for an interview.
You're
So like
saying
never for like a
naturally,
job.
naturally people are essentially racist, and it's gonna happen regardless. And pretty much the rules allow
Well,
it to
yeah.
be
I don't even want to say that.
fairer.
Yeah, I don't even want to say people are like naturally racist. It's just I just look at the empirical evidence and like by like by the evidence that's shown, it seems that people that are that the people that just have female sounding or like black sounding last names, for example, there are other factors too. Just sit for like less interviews. They don't even get the opportunity. So like a good example of like a DEI rule is taking the names out of the resume, so you only have the merits on there, so you don't know the person's name until they actually sit for the interview. So if only you have someone's credentials, you don't have their picture, you don't have their name, you don't have their age, because people discriminate based on age too. That's part of it. If you only have their merits and like they look like a good candidate, then you'll probably sit them for like an interview, and then it helps prevent things like that. So
Yo,
that's like
if we do that, like it's gonna be like all Asian, like all Asians leading all the companies. That's what I feel like.
that's possible. But if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, so like 50 years ago, oh yeah, yep, let's go back 50 years ago. All 500 out of 500 of those companies were led by a white man, which is fine. I'm not, to be clear, I am not taking any digs at like white people or like white males at all. I'm just stating the facts here. And then a lot of my counterparts on the right that would disagree with me on this would say like, yeah, it was all merit based back then. So back when it was a 500 out of 500, white men on the Fortune 500 companies. About 15 years ago, I think it lowered to about, I think, 450 white men, and then the other 50 were either women or people of color on the Fortune 500 companies, and people would still argue that is still the case, that it's mostly merit based. And now only recently we seem to come up with like arguments with like recent DEI practices that now that it's I think it's like 390 something, so like a few less white men, and then the other like 100 are not white men on the company. Now all of a sudden it's not merit based, even though like in the Fortune 500, eight CEOs are black CEOs, six of which actually brought their companies into the Fortune 500, which means it wasn't in the Fortune 500, and now they are in with them at the helm. Would you say that like those six like black people or black men, and I think one of them is a black woman, would you say because of DEI, like they're not actually qualified for like the job, even though they were leading the company when it entered into the top 500 American companies? Probably not. And that's a great example of like DEI practices that like that have come in. Like the stock market, minus today, of course, because we took a little dip, has pretty much been going up and is way higher than it was 15 years ago. Not obviously, bar the 2000, the '08 recession and like, stuff like that. But I'd say like generally, society has gone on in like an upward slope in every metric, from like, econometrics to crime has gone down to like a lot of things. And with DEI coming in, where you at least give kids and adults, the opportunity to try out for these jobs and try out for these colleges and stuff like that. If you let them sit for it instead of knocking them out before they can even try, it usually helps.
I think you sold me on DEI. I ain't gonna lie, like I really ain't understand it as much before. I thought it was just, well, I knew it was making it more fair for black people, but I didn't know how, essentially the other way would be, the opposite would be without it, businesses would be like, it is put in place to limit racism. It sounds like, this is a
Yeah, it just helps out because it doesn't.
racism within business, favoritism
Yeah.
within races.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole thing about nepotism that I actually want to talk about next. But now that we're on that DEI topic,
Go ahead.
I'll say this last piece about DEI, and like it's it's true that if you see anyone that's like unqualified that's getting a job because of an immutable characteristic, like again their sex, age, race, gender, creed, whatever it is, you should definitely report that, because that's actually illegal. You cannot do that. If you, and you know, back in the 60s the argument was like the opposite, but now it's, yeah. Sorry. Anyway, I'll move on from that point. But like, yeah, it's definitely there to
Hey, look,
help
you
you get a
sold me
job.
on it. You sold me on it. Like, look, I really like that concept. Like, do you have a name for that? Like, where you take the names away and the genders, and you know, companies hire based off of credentials only.
Yeah, that is an example of a DEI policy. That is literally DEI.
Like,
Yeah.
what would you call that DEI policy that you would implement?
Oh, so that's already implemented in some places, like in the military. We no longer show the show like the picture, the exact name of the policy. I can't remember. It's something about anonymity, but I don't remember the official name, unfortunately. No, but some sort of act having to do with like people having to stay like anonymous, then so you have to hire based on merit and like whatnot. But I think my real kick is with I guess what were we on? We're on
Better go on nepotism.
yeah, onto
Yeah.
nepotism.
All right,
So
explain.
yeah, so I have a big bone to pick with that, specifically generational wealth and how like that propagates. And I'm sure,
Define nepotism.
yeah, so nepotism is when there is an advantage gained by someone that has connections that they did not earn, I would say, to gain some form of marked advantage in like whatever their endeavor is, whether that be getting a job, whether that be getting into school, whatever have you. So the reason why I have a little bone to pick with nepotism, or specifically, I guess what I would call it like affirmative action for the rich class, I would say, is anywhere you look, it's very very prevalent that if you have a larger income and you come from a family with a larger income, your life is pretty much set up for you, not just in the sense of you're not hungry and you don't have to worry about your next meal, but everything from the school you go to the resources that you have available to it yourself. So like, for example, if you look at Harvard grads, people that attended Harvard, there was a study done in 2019. And, you know, before I say this study, I'd like to once more say I have absolutely nothing against my white brothers out there. Completely nothing. So this is just a study, and just, you know, throwing that out there.
Shout out George.
Yeah, shout out to George. So,
White.
yeah, 43% of white students admitted into Harvard in 2019 were on an ALDC status, which ALDC stands for athlete legacy. D is dean's preference, and then C is custodial or staff, children of a custodial or staff. And so how this works, and let me be clear. So those 43% of white people, most of them, a large chunk of them, are just part of the top 1%, meaning they make an income of like over $600,000 a year. It's just the only reason why they use white people as the statistic is because typically, if you're rich, statistically, you are white, typically, but that's not always the case. So this ALDC status, if you're athletes, now I know there's a lot of college athletes going out there, and there are popular sports like football, or like, I don't know, soccer, or maybe baseball, where like, you know, Puerto Ricans kind of own baseball, black people kind of own football, white people kind of own basketball, and like, you know, some of the stuff.
The Emiratis own
Exactly.
soccer.
Exactly. But an overwhelming amount of sports that people get an athletic scholarship into the Ivy League school aren't these sports. They are, what do you call it? They're like lacrosse, crew, tennis, fencing, country club sports. You know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I play
So
lacrosse.
exactly. Nothing wrong with playing these sports. But the problem you run into is if you're on an ALDC status, you get a huge preference onto you getting into a school. So if 43% of kids entering into Harvard are on an ALDC status, it was proven that when they in the study that when they applied to other similar high esteemed schools like Brown University, for example, they would actually get rejected 75% of the time, meaning that they didn't make it on their own merit.
Hold up, I'm black and slow.
Yeah.
What is ALDC status again? One more time?
It's fine. ALDC is athletic, legacy, dean's preference, or custodial or staff children. So that means they have the nepotism in.
So
Minus-
if I
yeah.
graduate from a college, I could put my kid on ALDC status.
Yes, they would be on the legacy status. If you taught at a school, they would be on custodial and staff status. If you pay them a lot of money, which I'll get into, they'd be on the dean's preference list. And
So
then
there's levels to this shit.
oh
like-
yeah, there are levels to it. So people that were on legacy status in that same study, again, like when they applied to other schools, again, like Brown University, other super high prestigious schools, they were rejected 75% of the time, which again proves that they didn't actually make it on their own merit. They had a connection and then they went from there. So you could be some people, which, not trying to call out anybody, but you've got people like Jared Kushner, who his dad wrote to 2 senators to recommend his kid to go to Harvard, Jared Kushner, and paid them about $2.5 million I'm sorry, he didn't pay them. He donated to the school $2.5 million to the school. And then they admitted him after, that check went through. And that just goes to show how, like, if you have money, you can get your kid into just about any school, no matter what your grades are.
So what does Jared Kushner do?
So I guess I'll lay it down again. So his father paid the school $2.5 million. Paid Harvard $2.5 million. He donated them $2.5 million
To get his son in.
Yep. And he wrote to 2 senators because he has a lot of connections. He wrote them, and then that got him on the dean's preference list. The dean's preference list is a private list. It's confidential. We don't know what it is, and it's people that the dean lists down. This isn't meant to be confused with dean's list, which means you have a 3.6 GPA or higher. It's the dean's preference list, which is a special secret list that private colleges have. That if you're on that list, it means that you have a connection to somebody, and then you have preferential treatment into getting into your school. Again, 43%, that's almost half. That's ridiculous. And out of those 43%, most of them are top 1% earners, or most of them come from families that are like top 1% families. And the reason why I have a bone to pick with a lot of this...
43% is ALDC?
43% of white students admitted into Harvard in 2019 were ALDC status, yes.
Okay, so...
That's almost half.
Okay. Yeah. Without them, right? Without, like, let's say we take them out.
If you took out ALDC status...
Yeah.
You'd probably have a lot more Asians in the school.
You'd have an all-Asian school.
Maybe. You
would have an all-Asian school.
You would have to break it down.
Harvard would be all-Asian, and America would be like, what the fuck? It would be a wake-up call for America. It would.
It would.
And, like, I don't think a lot of these older people want to see that, but eventually they will die off, and we will be forced to see that.
Yeah.
Because things are becoming more fair. You're pointing this out. A lot of people don't even know about this. Like, I didn't even know about it. Yeah, I didn't even really get it while you was breaking it down. Then I started to get it, like, while you was explaining. You did a good job explaining it.
The numbers are crazy. Like, if you are born into a family that makes like over $300,000 a year, your life is set. You have nothing to worry about at all.
I'm just saying, like, when it comes to these schools, though, you're arguing, like, all right, I want, like, just fairness across the board.
Yeah.
If the best person should get
merit-based, correct, yeah.
And, are we ready for all Asian schools then? Like, or these schools to look completely different?
I agree. It'll definitely be a wake-up call because representation on certain demographics will go down, and representation on certain demographics will go up. So, like, you would have to wait and see, because, like, I'm not trying to count anyone out. There's plenty of smart not Asians out there as well as there's smart Asians out there. Yeah, like, obviously you got, like, Nigeria, the Nigerians coming over. I think it's the #1 immigrant doctor population, more than any other country that like we import doctors from is from, like, Nigeria. So they got some smart people there. You got some smart people in Japan, Asia, Japan, South Korea, China. Obviously, I'm coming over here too. But there'd definitely be a huge wake up call on that end. So it's definitely some, like, heavy stuff.
Man, did you see that Kanye West interview? with
Which
DJ Academics?
no, I didn't. I didn't. I saw a few late Kanye interviews, but not that one.
Yeah, bro. He's like, you're not gonna miss it. He's wearing a black KKK Klansman.
I know he's selling swastikas.
Yeah,
I know that.
yeah. He does the whole interview in a completely black Ku Klux Klansman outfit, and
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy. Like I think well, before I tell my take on Kanye, what's your take on Kanye? You know, like
Yeah.
just his relationship with black people and just people in general.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge early Kanye fan. I think everyone is an early Kanye fan. Recently, let me flesh out what I like about Kanye back in his early back in his early days. Definitely shook up the scene. You know, coming in.
Pink Polo.
Great. Yup. I just, it's just sorry to see that, like, yeah, I guess I'm disappointed a little bit because, you know, you can't be selling Klan merch and like swastikas and stuff, you know.
Why
for
can't
like,
he? He's doing it.
yeah. Oh, sorry. When I say it can't be, I mean like it's not good because like I don't think that's great for the
I
community.
see Kanye as like, bro, he's doing it for attention.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, a spoiled little kid that's, you know, just acting out. And
I think he's jealous of Kendrick personally. But
I do too, bro. He was just in the beef with Drake. He had I didn't realize that until I diagnosed the beefs with Drake, and I was like, wow, we really got behind Kendrick on that beef, but on the beef with Kanye and Drake, like
the OG beef was Kanye and Drake, and then
he lost.
And then what happened was he kind of got swept to the side, and it was Drake and Kendrick, and he wanted to jump in, but after, you know, the Super Bowl, you can consider Kendrick's battle won. Call it a technical knockout if you would.
Yeah,
But
it's like the media was like, this is our new nigga, our new token.
Yep.
Nigga is gonna be this younger one. It's not gonna be Kanye anymore. Kanye, you're the old one, and it's like they try and push him out. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think it's working? I think it's working because I'm saying that black people are turning on Kanye, and that's what we don't need to happen. Black people don't turn on Kanye. He's misunderstood. Like, yo, he wants to understand people, but just you got to understand he's a narcissist, and you know, narcissists are everywhere.
That's true.
You might be one. You know,
That's
I might
true.
be one. Who knows?
That's true. That's true.
I'm saying, look, understand Kanye is a musical artist. That's what he is. And,
I think above all else, you should love the music. You don't necessarily need to love the man, but definitely like appreciate the music. I know it's like gone throughout history, even since like way back in like jazz and stuff, and a lot of jazz musicians were not great people, both in terms of like their extensive use of drugs to their like, you know, abuse of like both substances and like, you know, how they treated their wives and you know, stuff like that. But their music was great music, and you could appreciate the music and not necessarily idolize the man. Now, you could still have respect for the man or woman, of course, man or woman. But you should look at the music above all else. And I'd say the same thing for Kanye is at the end of the day, he is a musical artist. And if anything, don't turn away his art, because his art is beautiful. So keep that. If you can't associate with the man itself, I understand. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. I do. Who you listen to?
Ooh, recently?
Yeah, who you listening to musically?
Recently, just Kendrick, mostly. My girl got me into Kendrick. A little bit of Glorilla, too, I guess.
Glorilla, okay,
yeah. I'm mostly like an old timer. Like, funny that I mentioned jazz. I listen to a lot of jazz. So, yeah. So, but yeah, those
jazz is a whole mood. Like you throw the jazz on when you're doing something important. Like you just you could lock into a completely different zone.
Yeah, put on some Miles Davis, maybe some Coltrane. Who knows? Yeah.
Feeling blue.
Yep. Correct.
If you could tell your future kids anything right now, what would you tell them?
Ooh, I tell them, definitely give everything you got, like 100%. Never half-ass anything, because it might wind up worse if you half-ass it than if you put in like 100%. Just like if you're building a house, like if you build half a house, you got 2 walls instead of 4. You got half a roof, you got half a tub. You spend half the money on the house, like $100,000, right? is that house worth to you, like worth anything if you only build half of it? No, but you still dumped $100,000 into it. So if anything, don't half-ass anything. Give it 100%, and then you got no regrets after that.
That's real. You're married too, right?
I'm getting there, working
Getting
on
married?
it.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, working on it.
Well, congratulations on that too.
Thank you.
You expecting any kids, or do you plan on having kids in the future?
Yeah,
How
would
many?
like to have a kid. One or two. One of the two. Let's go with 1.5.
All right.
Yeah.
And let's see. What are you doing to never go broke again?
Well, following Dave Ramsey's baby steps right now. So, a little bit of talk.
Who's Dave Ramsey?
So Dave Ramsey, huge like financial mogul, helps people like with like financial advice, basic financial advice, and like basically, I built an emergency fund, and now I'm paying off all my debts right now. And like once all the debts are gone, which should hopefully be gone like the next year, then I can start investing without any money coming out of my account every month. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, all right. How many times a gym, or how many times a week do you go to the gym?
I try to go 4 times a week, but recently that hasn't played out as well as I wanted it to. Been a little bit busy with some army courses, so I just started going to the gym like last week again after taking like a 2-3 week break. So I'm still kind of sore all over. But yeah,
That's a good feeling, bro.
Yeah, yep.
That's a good feeling. All right. And how often do you write out your thoughts?
Ooh, well, as I was telling you before, this podcast is very professional looking. Like you have a great setup. So I was nervous coming on here. So I definitely wrote out some thoughts before I jumped on. I'd say probably every like few days or so. Yeah, I write them out.
All right. And yo, if you could describe Trump in one sentence, what would you say?
One sentence. I got one word for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, ambitious. That's it. That's all I got. He's definitely ambitious.
Trump ambitious from Timmy Moore himself. Yo, Baltimore Podcast episode 17. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Let's see. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Staying anonymous. But let's see. What do I got? I got an Instagram. TMoreTT74. Yep, that's my Instagram. Thanks. Yeah.
Go follow him, TMoreTT74. Don't forget it. Baltimore Podcast. We are out of here. Episode 17. Thank you, Tim.
Yo, peace. Thanks, Kyle.
Love you, guys.
Yeah. That's good shit, man.